Welcome back to Skillify. Today we'll be covering the very important and most popular topic in the Excel, that is the pivot tables. And I know that everyone was waiting for this lecture, and now today we'll be covering A to Z about the pivot table. So let's start. So I have taken this data. So very simple data. So you have the employee name, you have the regions, you have sales, you have revenues, right? So what I want and what is my requirement right now is yeah, yes, employee IDs are there. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Now we can just work on them. Yes. Okay. So what is our main concern and what exactly the working of pivot table is? What is the main role of pivot table? Where we exactly use it? So we'll be covering all these things over here. Now, the main purpose of pivot table and the very starting is, first of all, why the pivot table is there. What is the need of pivot table? Okay, so we have basically, if we have the normal table, why we need the pivot table? So the very basic difference is pivot table are so dynamic. We can make changes the way you cannot even assume. Okay, we can perform the data analysis very easily by the help of pivot table as compared to the general tables. Okay, so pivot table are they provide us much more as compared to the normal tables, and it's like very easy. You all you need to do is just drag and drop the things. Okay, let's see how we can do this. First, you need a data over here. I have taken as employee IDs, general the serial numbers over here. We have the employee name. We have some regions. We have sales and revenue. Okay, so this is nothing but a sales type of data. So this is very general data, and if you are working on some other type of data, the process will be same. Okay, it's irrespective of the type of data you've been working on. Very first thing or very first step is to insert a pivot table. How you can do that? Two options are there. First, click anywhere inside your table, anywhere. Okay, and now go to the insert tab. In the insert tab, you have the option as pivot table. Click on it, and now see what exactly happened. I didn't selected this table by myself, right? I just clicked inside the table and that is like automatically happened. Okay, so these are the small things which are very useful tricks and all. So it is actually the preview, or I can say that this is kind of questioning that it is asking us, is this the data for your table? This is cross checking. So I will say yes, this I can just cross check. Yes, this is the data for my table. How I actually just calculated it, you can see that those dancing ends out there. So my entire table is selected, right, including all these headings. So what I need now to do is simple. So first thing is my data is selected. Second thing it is asking, choose where you want the pivot table to be placed. So do you want your pivot table to be placed in the new worksheet or in the same existing worksheet? So my suggestion is to go with the new worksheet. That's easy and manageable, and like even you can manage the existing work in existing workbook also, but more you effective is to go with the new worksheet. So right now for new worksheet, I don't have to select any specific area. And then let me just show you both ways. So right now I'm inserting a pivot table in the new worksheet. I will click on OK. And in the new sheet, that is the sheet 3, I have a new pivot table. If I go back to my data, I perform the same step. I have clicked inside the table. I will go to the insert tab. I will click on pivot table, and this time I am selecting existing worksheet. Now see, this area is now activated. It is asking me for the location where I want to put my pivot table. What I can do is simple. I can just click on any of the cell. Like in this cell, I want my pivot table to be inserted. There is no need to select a range. All I need to do is just click on OK. And yeah, now you see the same table is get inserted in my existing table. Okay. So this is the way actually we work. Okay, now I have removed it. So we already have inserted a table. I'll go to that table. Now this is the interface we get after getting the pivot table. This area is your going to be a pivot table. Now the important part or important area is those pivot table fields. Okay, so what pivot table fields are actually, so in this section, if you notice, if you compare it with your employee data, just read out the name of your headings, that is employee ID, employee name, region, sales, revenue. If I go back to the sheet 3, or let me just rename it to my pivot table, and then in this section you see the name, these employee ID, employee name, region, sales, revenue, these all are the name of our columns, right? If you have, even you have 20 columns, you have 30 columns, irrespective of number of your columns, all the name of your column will get inserted into, like, will appear as a field, right? After that, you have these four different areas, right? So these are the field name and whatever value you want. So basically now you have to build an eye in order to understand what is your requirement, how you will be using your data and all. So how we'll be putting those things into the section. So we have four sections basically. One is if you want to put a filter on a specific value, and then how you want something, if you want something to be available in the columns, you can just drag it to the column. If you want something to be in row, you can drag it to the row. If you want the values, you can drag it to the values. Now let's say I want to check out, first thing I want the employee names, right? First I want the employee names. So I want employee names to be available in the rows. What I have done, I have selected this employee row, and I have just, by pressing left key from my mouse, I have dragged it. You can see that I am dragging it and keeping it into the this area. Okay, so we already did that, so it's there in the row. Now you see these are the name of my employees. Now see, if I go back to the employee data, there are 20 different, like, there are 20 lines, right? If I go back to pivot table, there are only 10 rows. Why? Because in the pivot table, first of all, it shows the summarized data. It will not be showing you the duplicate data, right? If I go back to the employee data, I'll see I have actually duplicated my data after the 10th number of row. So the Specie, Roan, and Cadence all are the duplicated values. So it is just taking the original values over here. Now, second thing I want to calculate is, let's say I want to check out sales per person. So how much sales this person has done, how much sales the other person has done. For that, what I can do is simple. I will take the sales and I will put it into the values. Okay, now you see that first of all it is showing you the sum of the entire sale, and this is the area. It is showing that Cadence has made this much of sales, so it is just joining. Okay, it is just adding the sales from two different sections, because this name is appearing two times, right? To get to know like how this value is coming, just double click on it and see. This was our original table, and one sheet will get inserted before your existing table. If you click on it, it will show you that exactly how you are getting the value, sales value. Right now my sales value is 26237. If I just copy out this value, okay, I will let me just come to the section. If I control V, and let me just add these two values, so I can just put the sum function over here, tab key. So one is this, then comma, and checking this value. Then you just close the bracket and hit enter. So these values are same. You can see that 2627. So exactly it is showing you the elaborated data, right? As I told you, pivot table is going to revert back you the summarized data. But if you want, if you have any doubt how exactly these values are coming, if you are just struggling to understand your data, all you need to do is just click on, double click on that value, and a new sheet will get inserted, like just before your existing sheet, and you can just see out the preview of that data, right? So you can just delete that particular sheet if it's not of need. So you can just delete it. Yes. Now this is the pivot table. I have made this changes. Now I just want to check out. Let me now, second thing, let's say this is the table I got. Now I think I don't wanted this. My boss has asked me to calculate the sales per region. So for that, what I can do, I can just take the sales and I can put it into the row also, right? Now what is happening, it is telling you that this person has made a sale in this region, that is Tokyo, and this was the amount he had made the sale. This person Carmen, in the region, this region, they have made this sales, right? Let's say I don't want to check it on the basis of a person. I just want to know that how much sales I have done in the Tokyo, how much sales I have done in the Omaha or some other place, what I can do is simple to remove that some other criteria from my fields. Let's say right now I want to remove this employee name. First option is to right click on it, this one basically. So if you click on it, even not right click, just click on it, you have the second last option as remove field. If you click on it, that will be gone from your this section. Now let me just take it again back to the row. Second option to remove it is just to drag it just outside from this field this way. And third way to do the same thing is simple. You can just uncheck from here and it will be gone. And the last way is simple. You can, the way you have dragged it and in, you can just drag it back to the section. This is the way you can just drag a new field into the these sections, and you can just remove those, right? Now this is the way I have just calculated the sales per region. I can just check out the revenue per region also. For that, what I can do is I can take the revenue, I can put into the sales, right? And I can just take the sales back. I can just check out the revenues per uh, region. Now see, these values are kind of not sorted, not in the proper format and all, but how I can just make changes into my existing pivot table, right? So this is the pivot table. See, if I click outside the table, these fields are gone on which I've been working on. To get them back, I have to click on it. I have told you, whenever you insert something from the insert tab, you'll have something associated with. So now see, if you focus, when I have clicked inside the table, I am getting these two different tabs associated with this table itself, and those fields are also associated with this table, right? Now, second task is to modify this data or to make some changes into this data. What I'll do is I will just right click on it and you'll see the options out there. There are multiple options out there, right? So it's like if you want to sort these values, I can just do the sorting from smallest to largest. See, it gets sorted. Second thing I can do is simple by right clicking. Right now the values are summarized, right? I can just let's say I want to show my values to be let's say how much percentage, let's say I have achieved this much of target in total, right? I just want to check out what was the percentage of Tokyo in this revenue, right? How much contribution has made by Tokyo in order to achieve this particular grand total. To do that, what I can do is simple, click on any of these value, right click on it, and now you have to go to the show value as, right? And in this section you have multiple option as percentage of grand total, percentage of column total and all. I need to check out on the basis of percentage of grand total. I will click on it, and now you can see that if grand total is 100%, so the contribution of Tokyo was 2.39%. The highest contribution was made by Washington. This is the way you can just analyze the data. This is the way actually how we work in real life with the data also, right? Now, let's say I want to check out all these things. Let's say mm, take the employee name, put it into the row, and take the region back. Now what I want is I want this region to be in the filter section. I want to check out just for one region, some specific region. So filter is something in which you can choose out. If I click on this drop down, you'll see I have multiple options. I just want to check out for this section, or let's say I just want to check out for Tokyo. I will click on Tokyo and just hit on OK, and it will show you only this person was working in the Tokyo, and this was a like 100%. Whatever he has made is this value exactly. If I go back, if I just select any other value and if I click on OK, it will show you the same values actually, because on a specific region there was only one person. So this is the way actually we can just work, and we can just remove these things also. Yes, these filters, or to remove this filter from here, what you can do is remove the region from the filter section to go back. This is the way we can do it. Now just navigate through here and there. Now just move to come to this pivot table analyze tab. Very important. If you click on it, you have a lot of options out there. Instead of starting from left hand side, let's start from the right hand side because it is very important. See, these are your fields, right? We call them fields. If you, these options, what you want to show on your screen in your pivot table, do you want this field to be always available there? Do you want your field header to be there? Okay, so up to you. Either you want to keep it or not. Let's say I have just removed this field list. So this field list, even when I will click on this table, I will not be getting those field lists because that is not selected. So if you are facing that problem, just go to the pivot table analyze tab and just check out in the show section, show group, if this field list is selected or not. So just click on it and now you'll have this fields over here, right? Yes. Now, second thing is the buttons. Button is something I have told, I have shown, like showed you. If I take the sales per region, let me just put the sales or region into the row. This way, you see these button. This button is coming in front of the name of the persons. These are the buttons, basically plus and minus. Right now, these are minus because they are expanded. If I click on this button, it will be converted to the plus because the expansion is not no, like not there now. So if I don't want them to be visible, I can just hide these buttons. Now the disadvantage to do that is simple. I don't know if something is inside these values or not. In that scenario, to get to know or to recheck, what I have to do, I have to double click on this value in order to understand if there is a value available inside the existing value. So the better way is to keep it also on, so that if there is a value inserted inside the other value, so you can just check that out. Now field header, if I click on the field header, so basically these row labels and these are things which are field headers. Now if I move to the section that is a pivot chart, recommended pivot tables. Now the charts always get inserted on a pivot table. These are pretty similar to your normal charts. You can just insert them simply. Now let's say I have this table over here. Let me just remove the region from this row. So yes. So let's say the person, how much revenue this person has generated. I want to put a chart on it. So for that, what I can do is simply just click on this, select it, Control A, and then go back to the pivot chart. It will show you the appropriate chart. But if you want to do some experiment with it, you can just select out some other options out there, right? You can just click on them. You can just work on them. All you need to do in last, just click on OK, and the chart will get inserted into your file, right? To make any changes into your chart, again, because we have inserted a chart, we will be getting a new tab, that is the format one. If you want to make any changes into the chart titles, like basically the chart elements, you can do that from this section. Pretty similar with the others also. So let's say over here this plus sign is there, it will show you the chart element. Let's say if you want to take the axis, so axis is your, this is your y axis, this is your x axis. Do you want there to be like some data? Do you want those axes or not? Let's say if I unchecked it, now both axes are gone. There is no value on the axes. Do you want the chart title? This area, this total is the chart title. Do you want to keep it or not? If I unchecked it, that will be gone. Grid lines in my chart. So if I click on this grid line, so those lines which were lying behind these bars are gone. The legend is basically which represent that, which color is representing to which thing. This color is representing the total blue color. So these are the legend. If you want to keep it, you can just keep it. Otherwise, click on legend and that will be gone. So again, up to you how you, what are the things you want to keep inside your chart and what are your requirements. The grid line right now is looking good. Axis might work. Yes, that's all I need. I can just make it small or the way I want it to be, this way, and we can just adjust it, right? Yes. Now, if I click on this table, to make any changes into, let's say I have made some change into this area. Let me just right click on it and just show value as no calculation. These are the values. And now let me just made a change into this value. Okay, so you can just make some change into the pivot table, basically the employee data. So that value over here is cadence. If I come back, cadence is there. Let me just make any change into it. Okay, and let's hit enter. So there is a change in my data. If I come back to the pivot table, and now this is 88, and what I need to do, come to the pivot table and just refresh it. So I think that was some other values. I don't remember that. Let me just check again. This is 19 10 944 for Ron. Come back to the data. Ron is there. And if I made any changes in this value, so basically what will happen, enter, and if I go back to the pivot table, now it's 10. This value got changed. So basically what I'm saying is simple. It is something which is associated with your values. If you are working in the background, if there will be any change in your employee data, that will be reflected in your pivot table, and the same thing will get reflected into your pivot chart, right? If in between, when you are working with your data and you want to change your data source, if you have some requirement and you have to change your data source, so you can do that also. So that option you will be getting in the pivot table analyze tab, and that is in the data section. It's asking you for change the data source. If you click on drop down, it will show ask you change data source. Click on that, and it will just show you that this was your data, right? This was your data which you've been selected, and you want to change the range, you want to add something, you want to remove something, so that you can do from this section, right? If you just click on it, you can just click on this area and you can select it again. Let's say this time I am just selecting this much of data. That thing we can just do, right? Right now I don't want to do that. Let me just cross it, and let's come back. Open the pivot table, analyze, right? Now let's say I have some different sections over here, right? We have some column names out there. We have employee id, employee name, region, sales. Now if someone asks me to calculate something, is there any possibility I can calculate the new field? So usually people say no, no, these all these things I have to first I have to calculate that thing in my base data, then that thing will be reflected in my pivot table. No, this is not the way it works. We can calculate some fields in the pivot table. So what you have to do, simple, just go to the this in the calculation section, go to this field item set, click on this field item set, and the very first option you'll have as calculated field. Click on this one and you'll have a window in front of you, small pop-up. The very first thing it will ask you about field. Let's say I want to calculate the revenue. Okay, so right now let me just take sales as an expense. Okay, and then yeah, for an example, or we can just add a new column for, let's come back to the employee data and then just expenses. Okay, and some random values will be there. So what are, okay, so it's not going good because it is just taking the pattern and it's random. Just give me 1 second. And just so if I come back to the pivot table, so basically, and if I just pivot analyze, if I refresh it, so okay, now I have to calculate a field, right? So I will go to the field item, I will click on calculate field. Now first you have to give the field name. So the field name will be, let's say I want to calculate the profit over here, right? So in the next section you have to put the formula, right? So you need to understand, or you should know that what is the formula for profit. Yes. So the formula for profit is to minusing, like, or just subtracting the expenses from my revenue, right? So that right now that expense is not calculated, so that what we can do is, I'm just telling you, over here you have the name of your columns. You can just select them. For example, first revenue will appear, right? You will click on insert field. Now revenue is there. Just put the operation what you want to perform, that is minus. So this time just take sales as an expense. So second, I want to minus my sales from, sorry, yes, sales from revenue. I will insert this way, and I will just click on add. Okay, and just click on okay. And now see, this area you have the profit, you have calculated the profit. Right now just taken the sales as expense. Yeah. Now, second thing is, if you want to move your table from this section to somewhere else, we can just do that also. But before that, let's see how we can just use these filters, specific filters. So the way we have put it the filter, and the we have just taken the region and put it into filter, the same way we can do use these options also. Just go with the slicer first, specific filter. Now it's up to you, and you have to understand that on which column names or on which criterias you need to put these filter. So let's say I can put a filter on region, right? I can filter out my data on the basis of region, and I will just click on OK, and you'll see that this filter got inserted, right? So I can make changes into it, and let's say I just want to check out the data for this area. I will click on it, and that thing will get updated into my chart as well as into my table. Let's say I want to check for Nashville, and then that will be reflected into my table as well as into the chart. For visible Tokyo visible into the table, visible into the chart. So this is the way these slicers will work. Second thing is, this another slicer is there. So if I click on my table, and if I go with the pivot table, okay, so we have insert slicer, then we have the insert timeline. So timeline, we know that timeline is all about dates and all. If you click on it, it will ask you, and right now it's showing we cannot create a timeline for this report because it does not have a field format is at date. So if you have date, so that date can consist your months, date, or years also. So for that you can just put a timeline for that, right? Now, let's say you want to check out about your pivot table. So click on these options. You'll have some options out there. Totals and filter. Do you want to show the grand totals in or not? Do you want to put the filters, allow multiple filter per field or not? How you want your data to be displayed? Okay, and what are the alternative text for specific area? So these are the customizable things. We can just check them out. Okay. And then next thing will be your design tab. Design tab is all about if you want to make changes into your like design of your table. Now to remove these things, you can just click on it, just hit on delete. That will get deleted. Same way we can delete the chart also. Now that's all. There is no need to do something else. Now to make any changes into the designs, you can just go to the design tab, right? You can just select some other design or style of your table, right? You want to see the subtotals, you want to see the grand totals, you want to see the report layout. Right now, you can see that band. What are the banded row? These are the banded row. One row with dark color, one with the light color. If you don't want to see that, you can just select it. If you want the banded column instead of banded row, so this way it will work. So one column will be uh, light with light color, one will be dark, then light, then dark. This way it works. Do you want to remove the row headers, and do you want to remove the column headers? This way it will work. Okay. So yeah, that's all about the pivot table. Let me just summarize the session. By the help of pivot table, you can easily just make your data so dynamic, and then you can just work on it. The editing part is so easy. All you need to do is just to drag and drop anything, whatever you want to analyze. You can just have that and just make the report and all. Okay, and to make any changes into the existing data, if you want to do the editing, if you want to do the sorting, you want your values to be summarized as something else, all these things you can just do easily in the pivot table, right? If you have any comment, sorry, if you have any suggestion, if you have any question, just put that down below in the comment section. I will be solving all those doubts. Okay, and if you have something left with pivot table and you want me to cover that, just drop that into the comment section. I'll see you guys in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Thank you so much for your time.